So we're here in Dublin City Civic Offices to talk with Dick Gleeson, who's the city planner for Dublin. They've been using systems thinking and the natural step, TNS, as a specific framework for understanding how they would, the overarching principles for planning for the city, both at a city-wide level, but also on some of the major projects within the city. So we'll go upstairs to his offices now, and he will talk us through how they see the advantages of both systems thinking and TNS approach. He's used to that.
Absolutely.
Okay, are we on then?
Then you're ready to go?
Yeah. Okay, so to start with, can we talk a little bit about your understanding of systems at the city level and how the TNS approach particularly was useful for city level planning?
Yeah, I suppose the existing context would have been one where we would acknowledge that in the past the approach to planning in cities in decades gone by would have been one of trying to simplify the city, trying to segregate it into separate uses, you know, whether it's retail, residential, industrial. And in a sense it produced a very sterile city. You know, you see it in some American cities, and it produced almost a donut effect of a burnt out core. So I think modern planning is moving towards a philosophy of urbanism, which really welcomes and nurtures the idea of a complex city.
Yeah.
And the question is, though, and this complex city produces a lot of unpredictable consequences, many of them good and some of them bad. And the question is, from a planning viewpoint and a strategic viewpoint, how do you manage that complexity? So with that question in mind, we developed our 6 urban themes approach. And you could have had 10 or you could have had 12, but we had 6 urban themes: economic, social, cultural, environmental, movement, and urban form. And the idea there was to use those themes. They wouldn't always have the same balance. They might apply differently in terms of the weight given to them at the strategic level, but you could also apply them at the neighbourhood level. But if there was a total absence of 1 or 2 of those themes in your approach, there would be a fundamental flaw.
Okay.
So what that systems type thinking did for us was to allow us to think, using the inspiration of the natural step as well, to think forward and say what is the shape of success under those urban themes. Okay. And a follow-on from that, to make it a bit more user-friendly, is to say what qualities in a city would evidence that success level at a future date. And with that in mind, then you could come back and say, you know, what are the blockages that are preventing us in every way from achieving that future level of success? And on that basis, then you could say, in relation to those blockages, you could formulate your priority research areas or your pilot interventions. So it was geared to responsiveness at both a strategic level, but you could also flip down to the local level of the street or neighbourhood or whatever. And
so you developed those 6 themes, overarching themes, and then you introduced the TNS, the natural step. When did that happen and how did it work?
This would have been about 7 or 8 years ago at first. We were very conscious that sustainability was, as a philosophy, as an overarching philosophy, was becoming very much more important for our future and survival, and as a way of underpinning livelihood and livability in cities as well. And under our themes, we would acknowledge that you wouldn't really know if you were achieving a sustainable future or not.
Okay.
So we wanted a more rigorous basis, a more scientific basis. So we searched out there in the world, and we have come up, we think, with one of the best systems in the natural step. And I think what really appealed to us was the wonderful story of Karl Heinrich behind the natural step, being worried about, you know, the impacts of various aspects of the environment on human health, and people trying to argue, is this having a worse impact than that? So he decided we have to get upstream again.
Yes.
And he got agreement, as you know, among the Swedish science community about the fundamentals of life on the planet.
Yes.
What an achievement. And of course he distilled, with the help of those energetic Swedes, into 4 principles. And this became the basis of his methodology. And we subsequently incorporated this into the city development plan.
Right.
key
I'd like to
elements of it.
how ye then marry the two, if you like, your own principles and overarching themes, and then the framework itself. How did that work?
Well, I think the framework is made up of more than the principles. I mean,
Yes.
there's a very interesting and helpful methodology. When you look at the 5 levels, system levels, each one is important. And you
Yes.
can see how it helps the interconnection between the thinking of the 6 urban themes, such as on level 1 to be aware of the total systems within which you operate.
Okay.
One of the problems with traditional approaches, and even still today, is silo thinking.
Yes.
People are allowed to go away and work out their problems totally within one sphere without considering its impact on other areas.
Yeah.
What urbanism does, it really asks you to cross a threshold where you really consider the total impact of everything
Right.
in terms of what you do. So having to be aware globally of the geological and political and social systems in the world and how they impinge on your city is very, very helpful for this integration and interconnected thinking. I think also the second level, which is about the success, articulating future success.
Yeah.
This is also helpful because we tend, in a complex city system, to be burdened by the issues of today and incremental responses. Of course, incremental responses are important,
Yeah.
but it's very, very important to take a long-term view to shape out that success and begin then to position your individual projects within a framework that's defined by that long-term success.
Right.
Strategy level then is what it says.
Yes. Yes.
It's a strategic approach to thinking about your issues and challenges.
Right.
We wrote a document, 16 challenges facing the Dublin region, which again begins to introduce people to a very broad context of Dublin. Those challenges are inspired by an understanding of the 6 urban themes, and each one, number 1 being a creative city, a creative citizen in a creative city.
Yes.
Each one has a reflective introduction, a statement of issues, a statement of intent, the long-term success, what we're trying to do in that area, and then priority research areas. And then the final levels in the methodology, action and tools. It's very important that we encourage the citizen and the city and everybody to do things, but it just is a little bit less than optimal if we don't understand the framework within which that's happening. And of course the tools, Karl Heinrich and the Natural Step community have done a huge service in working out alignments between the different important measuring systems in the world.
Yes. Yes, they have.
So then I think the final component of the methodology, how do you get going in any context? It can apply to any scale, it can apply to a neighbourhood, and it's the ABCD, which is the awareness of everything I just described in a very rich, progressive way. The baselining, if we don't understand where we are now, how can we say where we have come from in 5 years? So metrics are hugely important. The C is the compelling vision to get to set for ourselves some interesting, difficult targets to aim for, and D is down to action. So actually I have found the methodology very, very helpful in many different areas of work in planning in Dublin City Council.